welcome back. Well, this next video is not going to be different. So if you've done some web development before on a Windows or a Mac, um, this process is pretty much the same, but I'm having fun doing some of this work in Linux, so I'm going to show you how I did that as well. So now I'm currently on in my profile, and at least I can go to the desktop, and I've created a folder called web. So um, um, if you want to create it, you can create it by using mkdir and typing websites of some sort. So and you can see the website as this, so we can go inside of it. And if you remember in the previous video, I showed you how to install Node.js, and Node.js does uh, contains npm. So npm comes right along when you install Node.js on your machine. So we have npm installed locally on this machine. So one of the first thing I can do is, while I'm in this website folder, I can initialize a very simple web server by using npm init. Um, on a Windows platform, this will be equivalent to clicking File, New Project in Visual Studio and making a new project from scratch. So npm init, you press the enter key. It's going to ask you what you want to call the website. So it's just a bunch of steps that you have to follow through, and it'll give you a default value. If you press the enter key, it will assume the value. So in this case, it's website, which is fine with me. It'll ask for the version of the website that you would like to create. 1.00 is okay. Description, really simple. Express web server. And I don't want my entry points to be an index.js. I'm used to just using server.js, so I can change that. I don't want to put this in the repository, and my name still remains Gideon Ogongo. Yes, I like this, is exactly what I want, and I click next, and that's done. Alright, if you do ls, all that details that I have showed you would go into a package.json file. So you can see name is website, version, descriptions, and all of that. So the next bit of the process will be to run and open up that folder in a Sublime test. I'm not sure I remember how to do this, but if I just say Sublime space dot, I think it's Sublime test space dot. Okay, so now I can maybe figure that out later, but for now I'm just gonna click file. I'll click file, I'll say open folder, and then I go to the desktop, and then I have a website there, and I'll click on the opener. So alright, so you can see that we have I'm using control plus on my keyboard and control minus to basically zoom in and out. Alright, so when you're creating a web server, you have package.json, and package.json is a configuration file, so to speak. So if you come from a Microsoft background, this will usually be your web.config file. So it'll contain instructions on how your website is going to run. In this case, npm init creates the package.json, and it initializes it with all the information that we supplied. So if you want to create a web server, we told npm init that we wanted our entry point to be in a server.js. So, and that's the first thing we're going to create. So I'm going to create a server.js file, and there's a few workflow that you go through to get a web server up and running on using Express, and this is very important. So I'm going to go back to the command prompts, because I want to run this web server by using Express, and the reason why I keep saying using Express is because Node.js itself does have, you can create a HTTP server and run a web server with Node.js, but I find the Express to be a lot easier to use as a web server. So first you have to install it. So you can't just go right ahead and use packages unless package is part of the part of Node.js itself. In this case, Express is not. So you say npm install Express, and you say dash dash save. So the question is, what is that? Now remember, previously we had package.json, and one of the areas here is dependencies, which we don't have yet. But as soon as I say npm install express dash dash save, you will see what would happen to the file now is that the file will now make a reference to the fact that this application now depends on um, Express. So you can see we have dependencies, and one of the dependencies that this project will have is Express. And it also creates a node underscore module, and that's where all the packages and its dependencies will be downloaded into as well. So now that we have installed that, oh, and just before I forget, the reason for this is, so when you take this project and you move it to another machine or to a QA test or dev, um, you can just run npm install in the same directory, and it would look in the package.json file and just install every dependency and every references to it as well. So it's a really smooth way to make your application light. All right. So there's a very um, popular analogy that you go through when you're working with Node.js. So first I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it express, and because I had installed a package of express, I can use the required to be able to reference the express. So I'll say reference the express package, and then we can execute the express package into an app. So to execute the express package, you just put open and close parentheses at the end of it, like so. So this will usually be it. So you say app.listen, and you want this app to listen on port 3000. So like so, and then you want to pass in a callback, and this will simply then say console.log app now running on port 3000. Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. So first we use npm to install Express. This is going to be our web server. We execute Express, and then we run Express, the web server, on a port 3000. And then if running Express on port 3000 succeeds, we want to execute a callback function, and that callback function is simply going to say app now running on port 3000. So I'm going to usually just save this and go back to the command prompt. And here, to run this application, you say node server.js. So if you press the enter key, you can see everything seems to work. App is now running on port 3000, and that is absolutely fantastic. So you'll be tempted to want to just go and say, so what if I open the browser and I say localhost port 3000? Is there anything that we're gonna get? Well, the fact that you cannot get a root level of your application means there's something really running. The only thing is that you're not handling any requests. You're not receiving or sending any request back. And that's the next thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to shut this down and go back in here. And the way that you handle requests with Express is saying that obviously, if you're familiar with HTTP verbs, we have HTTP get, we have HTTP post, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to do something really simple, since I just want to have a very simple web server. So I'll say app.get, and if you go to the root site, which was what was not available previously. I'm going to execute a callback that has a request response, and that callback, then if you, so whatever you send to the server will be stored in the request. Whatever the server sends back to you will be stored in the response. So in this case, I can say response dot send, and then I can pass in some sort of information and say, welcome to our really simple web server. Our website, that also sounds good. Okay, so I'm gonna save this, go back here and say node server.js. Okay, that runs. I'm gonna open the browser and I'll go to localhost 3000, and voila, welcome to our really simple website. And that's how simple it is to start off a web server using Node.js. And there's a lot more things that you can do, but let's take it really slow and one step at a time. And in the next video, I'm just going to show you a little bit more feature on running a web server and doing some simple stuff. So we can create a couple of routes, and then look at how we can use a couple of middlewares as well. Alright, see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.